Hello, welcome to InfoHub Recap, where we focus on the top issues for the past week. In our headlines, President attending Solar Summit in India. Major relief operation launched after above normal high tides overtopped sections of West Coast Demerara seawall. March 8 was International Women's Day. Better water coming for Chinwing, and Cabinet Roundup. Stay tuned for the details of these and more. We begin with a special report from Delicia Haynes on the tidal flooding which affected several West Coast Demerara communities over the weekend.
The communities of Iflat, Lenora, Stewartville, and De Willem are returning to normalcy following recent flooding when unprecedented spring tides overtopped the seawall along sections of the west coast of Demerara. Since the incident on early Friday morning, the Civil Defense Commission and the regional administration has been providing the necessary relief and intervention. Several ministers have since visited the area, including Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Carl Greenidge.
The engineers have given me a lot of guidance as to what the problem is that they face, what they will be doing about trying to reinforce the wall from the other side. That's one side. Secondly, to keep the drains flowing, because that's a big problem, and a problem that the community has to help us with. If they block in the drains, then the water can't run off.
While the Public Infrastructure Ministry worked to repair the damaged seawall, 2 relief shelters were set up at Iflat Secondary School and the Iflat Lenora Community Development Center to house those displaced. Deputy Director General of the CDC, Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig, supervised the distribution of sanitation packages to residents in the affected communities.
What we're doing today is distributing cleaning items, sanitation items, to all the homes of the affected so that they can assist in cleaning up the area and to ensure that to reduce any health hazard from affecting the families and to keep away insects, snakes from biting the children and the member of the families.
By Sunday, residents could have been seen cleaning up their premises and returning to some level of normalcy. The affected areas continue to be monitored. Meanwhile, the affected Lenora Hospital was temporarily closed after the bottom flat was flooded. The cleanup exercise at the Lenora Treatment and Diagnostic Center is moving apace. Assistant Administrator Ms. Kathleen Armstrong stated that upon completion, the facility is expected to be reopened on Thursday, March 8.
Presently, we are in the mopping up exercises. Even though the Guyana Fire Service would have initially done some work, we still have to continue by wiping, doing our floors, sanitizing, and all the other aspects of the mopping up exercise. There's still some areas where we have the thick mud, and thanks to one of our contractors, he is bringing a power hose, and so we're going to be hosing out, especially the pharmacy and the health center. Those were the hardest hit.
Meanwhile, patients continue to be referred to the Mildred Cox Young Health Center at Den Amstel and the Iflat Community Center ground that are functioning on a 24-hour basis providing health care.
As of date, at these 2 health centers, Iflat and Den Amstel, we did not get any report on any flood-borne diseases. We also would like to give special thanks to the Cuban Medical Brigade who really helped during this period. They rendered their services. They went beyond the call.
From Lenora on the west coast of Demerara, I am Delicia Haynes.
Featured speaker at this year's Ghana Day celebration, Acting Prime Minister Carl Greenidge has called on Guyanese to take note of their history to gain an appreciation of the freedoms they enjoy today. Stacey Carmichael was there.
The annual Ghana Day celebration began with a parade moving from the Square of the Revolution along Durban Street and culminating at Congress Place, Sophia. Vice President and Acting Prime Minister Carl Greenidge reflected on the transatlantic slave trade and the impacts of slavery on Caribbean culture.
In the everyday pursuits that we undertake, the links with Guyana and Africa as a whole remain. Much of the African cultural and social remnants that you find in Guyana are indeed of either Fanta or Twi origin, that is, they are Ghanaian. And Guyana have been inextricably linked, not always visibly, but they've been inextricably yoked over the years. And that yoke has, as many of you will be aware, touched on many aspects of our lives.
Former Mayor of Georgetown, Hamilton Green, in his presentation stressed the importance of knowing one's history in order to move forward.
If you lose your history, you die. And beyond that, mankind has a bad habit. Barbara Tushman, in her well-written book, The March of Folly, reminds us that people in every part of the world, east, west, north, and south, don't seem to learn from their own experiences.
African clothing, food, and accessories were also on display. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
Sanika joins us again to tell us that over 300 households in Yerong, Peru, Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo, will now benefit from potable water for the first time, following the commissioning of the newly rehabilitated community water supply system on March 1.
90% of the community's 340 residents have gained first-time access to treated water, which has met World Health Organization standards. The other 10% of the residents not captured under the system received jerry cans, which will filter their water. GWI's Managing Director, Dr. Richard Van Westral, said that the initiative reaffirms the government's commitment to provide all access to quality potable water.
As a country, Guyana must see that all of its communities, no one, no child, no elderly person should die as a result of waterborne disease.
Prior to the intervention, 80% of the residents received water directly from an existing spring, which was at risk for contamination. Tushau Rovain Francis expressed gratitude for the initiative.
We are now seeing probably to be more treated, whereas years gone by, we know we had suffered a lot, drinking some kind of dirty water, years gone by. And now we are seeing, and our children are benefiting from that treated water. They are consuming that treated water now.
WHO representative Dr. Bonet Gabriel urged the residents to cherish and protect their new resource for their health and well-being. The US $19,000 project is a joint venture between the Guyana Water Incorporated and PAHO WHO and was executed with support from the Regional Democratic Council and Yerong Paru Village Council. Seneca Thorne for InfoHub.
Next, Paul McAdam tells us that in 2017, there were over 4,000 child abuse cases reported to the Child Care and Protection Agency. However, Region 10 accounted for the highest percentage with 22.1%.
Child Care and Protection Agency Director Ann Green said that Region 10 is followed by Region 3 with 20.6% and Region 4 with 17.6%. At a recent special meeting with various religious organizations, Director Green pointed out that most children are abused by relatives and other close persons.
All the regions have recorded sexual abuse, so it's right across the region. And then if you look at where the hurt is for children, it's in the home. The place where they should love the children the most, where children should be safe with people who love them the most. The irony of that, that's the place where the hurt is. Mothers are the main perpetrators, fathers.
Green pointed out that the statistics are not reflective of an increase in child abuse cases, but rather the impact of the multimedia awareness campaign being conducted under the theme, "If you see something, say something." Launched last year, the campaign, Green said, has made persons more comfortable in coming forward with information.
There are now more channels to report, and persons are more willing to talk about child abuse. but there's still too much silence, particularly on childhood sexual abuse, which is done behind closed doors and victims are without a voice.
The CPA director cited an urgent need for change in adult behavior and attitudes towards children. The Ministry of Social Protection, Green reiterated, cannot do it alone, hence the need for partnerships at the grassroots levels in order to prevent child abuse and promote child well-being. Remember, if you see something, say something. Paul McAdam for InfoHub.
Delicia Haynes now tells us that the Starkey Hearing Foundation has extended its screening and hearing replacement service to residents of Berbice.
The Starkey Hearing Foundation collaborated with the Department of Health Services in Region 5 to provide screening for at least 100 hearing-impaired persons. The foundation usually conducts this exercise locally in 2 phases. Caribbean Regional Coordinator Tammy Ann Young outlined the first phase.
In the phase 1, the patients get checked to ensure that they need the hearing aid, and then they actually go through different stages: registration, they go through the screening, they go through the voice testing if they need one, if they don't already have an audiogram, and then of course they check to make sure if their otoscopy, if a patient is impacted with wax, we support that patient by taking that out, that kind of thing. And then the blessing, what we call the magic happens at our impression station, and that's where the patient gets a custom fit mold made for them.
Driven by the vision So the World May Hear, foundation representatives extended screening services to Berbice in an effort to reach more persons.
My mom is a couple of years now, it's about 5-6 years now, she's having this problem with hearing. She hears sometimes, and sometimes you have to raise your voice sometimes just so, for she to get to hear properly. And for she to hear more better, you sometimes have to speak very slowly so she can able to understand what you're saying much. But as we hear, and she have to go through this pressure test and so forth to determine whether she have to get an hearing aid or what. I'm very grateful for this.
The hearing aid is comfortable, like it helps you hear. I was born deaf. I never was hearing when I was a baby, but I born deaf. And when I was a little child, I wore an earring before I had this one.
After this first phase of screening, the Starkey team is expected to return to Guyana in June to do the fitting for those screened. From the Fort Wellington Hospital in West Berbice, I am Delicia Haynes.
Up to 550 Guyanese will be employed by the Guyana Manganese Incorporated, GMI, when it begins construction of the Matthews Ridge Manganese plant in July.
Bosai Minerals Group Assistant General Manager Stephen Ma said the aim is to have a predominantly local workforce, particularly when production begins in early 2019.
Maybe maximum 100 will come from China. The rest of the workers will be sourced locally, not maybe only from Matthews Ridge, but overall the country. You train the local employees when they raise up and capable to do the job, and we send the expat back.
Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman was briefed recently by GMI, a Bosai company, on the development of the former Reunion Manganese Inc. RMI of Canada mining area. GMI acquired the licenses and other properties from RMI in November 2016. Minister Trotman encouraged the company to honour its corporate social responsibilities.
We expect you to be a good corporate citizen and to give back. And I wish to flag one area, that is the hospital. I believe it would be to your benefit and to the community's benefit if you could put some emphasis on boosting the hospital. I know that it is the government of Guyana's responsibility. However, I believe that you can assist us in boosting both the aesthetics and perhaps some training or some equipment because your workforce will need to have a good medical center to attend to, and the residents will necessarily benefit because you will take your workforce from this community as well.
Region 1 representative, Member of Parliament Richard Allen, said many are anticipating the resurgence of manganese mining.
This is a timely visit when not just Matthews Ridge or Mordecai sub-region is looking forward for the establishment of the manganese company, which brings relief and a lot of employment. We are seeing it, not just employment for the residents of Region 1 citizens, but Guyana as a whole.
Chinese ambassador to Guyana was also part of the briefing. He said he is proud of the example Bosai has set in Linden and charged GMI to have a similar integrated approach in Region 1. Reporting from Matthews Ridge in Region 1 for InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
The government, in collaboration with the Global Green Growth Institute, GGGI, will be undertaking a rooftop solar project for commercial and industrial use. This was disclosed by Deputy Director of the Institute's Energy Investment and Policy Division, Carol Litwin. Here is Stacey Carmichael.
Deputy Director of the Global Green Growth Institute's Energy Investment and Policy Division, Carol Litwin, said the institute will be working with the private sector and exploring options for financing in relation to the rooftop solar project. The aim is to source financing before the end of 2018 to start the project's rollout. A meeting with the private sector is slated for Thursday, where several financial models will be presented.
There's different financing options for the private sector. Guyana, there's 2 banks here in Guyana that currently has green credit lines. They are then associated, they're quite small, and they're not being used that much. We think they are quite good. So one of them is actually has some tax benefits, so that's quite helpful. But to scale it up, we need to make this on a much, much bigger scale. So we are looking at either what's called an SME type of financing. It would be a fund for which that's targeting industry and commercial customers that will be able to access long-term financing at good rates.
Another option is known as the leasing model, which requires the customer to sign a purchase or rent agreement with a leasing company, eliminating operations and maintenance. A simple monthly fee will be paid. GGGI, Litwin said, can contribute to reducing the local energy cost.
Guyana should really benefit from its solar, from its ample resources. This is a country that's endowed with water, with oil and gas, with and a good sun and also wind. And I think there's a need to diversify for energy security, not just to rely on, currently you're relying on diesel and oil, which is high cost.
Litwin was speaking prior to the opening of a renewable energy workshop hosted by the Department of the Environment and the Global Green Growth Institute, hosted at the Pegasus Hotel on Tuesday. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
Department of Public Service launched its scholarship website. Here is Natisha Isaacs.
Students and public servants will now be able to access a variety of scholarship opportunities offered by the Government of Guyana and other donor organizations via the Department of Public Services website. This announcement was made at today's launch by Head of the Public Service, Reginald Brotherson.
For overseas training, 145 fields of study ranging from accrual science to water sanitation and health engineering in 26 countries globally. The stats are as follows. In 2015, 52 scholarships. In 2016, 76 scholarships. And in 2017, 104, giving a total of 232 scholarships. On the local scene, 98 field of study was taken up, ranging from accountancy to tourism, giving a total of 1,031 scholarships awarded.
Prospective students will be able to register, save, and submit their applications via the website, while current and past recipients can access all forms necessary for the management of their scholarship.
If you read the papers yesterday, you would have seen that the fiber optic cable went down, right in the middle of us uploading the website. So we're hosting it in 3 places so that it will never be done. And we have a webmaster. The public service has hired a webmaster that will be updating the website in real time.
The website also provides public servants with the necessary information pertaining to professional training offered by the Department of Public Service. For InfoHub, Natisha Isaacs.
We now tell you that celebrated literary giant Sir Wilson Harris passed away early Thursday morning in the United Kingdom. The renowned author, poet, and essayist wrote over 26 novels, poems, and speeches. Sir Harris, who hailed from New Amsterdam, received numerous awards and is survived by 4 children. Continuing our International Women's Day coverage, Delicia Haynes now tells us that New Amsterdam women prisoners were charged to transform their lives by Minister Brooms. Here's that report.
Minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, delivered a moving message encouraging women to press for progress even during their incarceration.
I want to make the point, do not allow the situation that was already bad and gone wrong that get you in here to destroy you or to get the worst of you. As of today, Women International Day 2018, all of you will join it with me. We have to start the transformation right now, right here.
The minister, in collaboration with the Guyana Prison Service, celebrated International Women's Day with a program honoring the female inmates who were also presented with tokens of appreciation. Acting Director of Prisons, Gladwin Samuels, encouraged inmates to take advantage of opportunities available.
Even as you're incarcerated at this time, we have a responsibility to ensure that you feel a sense of worth, that you can understand your value, and that we can contribute to making you an even better individual, so that when you leave this institution, you're better prepared to contribute to yourself, to your family, to your community, and this nation as a whole.
International Women's Day 2018 is being observed under the theme, "The time is now, rural and urban activists transforming women's lives." For InfoHub, Delicia Haynes.
The International Decade for People of African Descent Summit 2018 got underway. More from Gabriela Patram.
The International Decade of People of African Descent 2015 to 2024 opened today at the Guyana Marriott Hotel. Acting President Carl Greenidge in the feature address commended the IPAD Summit and noted that the government remains committed to achieving the objectives of the decade.
The government of Guyana welcomes the observance of the decade as an important pillar in our overall efforts to provide the good life for all Guyanese.
The acting president added that stories of people of African descent must be told so that social cohesion can continue to foster.
There are also innumerable stories of the people who have come through, who have indeed made it.
CARICOM's Program Manager of Culture and Community Development, Dr. Hilary Brown, said the UN's proclamation was a welcome one and commended the government's hosting of the summit.
The decade's success also depends in part on what we do at this summit and how effective we are in our efforts to rethink, re-strategize, organize ourselves, and most importantly, implement.
Also delivering remarks were Dr. William Adu Crow, PAHO WHO representative, and Birgit Gerstenberg, Senior Human Rights Advisor, United Nations, Jamaica. The International Decade for the People of African Descent 2015-2024 was proclaimed by the UN General Assembly in a resolution 68-237 adopted on December 23, 2013. The theme of the International Decade is People of African Descent, Recognition, Justice and Development.
24 Pike Street fire victims received assistance from the Ministry of Social Protection. Details from Seneca Thorne.
7 families whose homes were completely destroyed by fire on March 7 received items including beds, stoves, hampers, food vouchers, and cash ranging from $20,000 to $50,000.
I'm very thankful because I don't have anything right now, so I'm very thankful for the little.
Everything gone, so at least this year can help do something, fence back me yard, could buy a little thing for get me shop.
Minister Amna Ali hopes that the items will bring relief to the families as they begin rebuilding their lives.
We are always willing to help. At this point in time, this is what we have been able to give, and as time unfolds, we are going to be able to look at individual situations.
On Wednesday, Minister Ali handed over some clothing items to the families. She also promised to engage the Mayor and City Council to assist the residents to remove the remains from the site. Seneca Thorne for InfoHub.
After years of suffering from a lack of water during dry seasons, Region 7's Chinawing is the latest community to benefit from GWI's efforts to ensure all have equitable access to potable water by 2020. Renata LaFleur has more.
The water company yesterday signed a memorandum of understanding with the regional administration of Kayuni Mazaruni in Bartica, which will see improved potable water supply in Channowing. Managing Director of GWI, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, said the company is working aggressively to realize its commitments.
Part of our focus in relation to our strategic plan is to really raise that percentage in terms of access to potable water over the next 5 years. So this is part of that process which we're moving on. We're trying to get resources from the government of Guyana, from GWI, and we are even tapping in to some non-governmental sources as support.
The over $10 million project will see the construction of a catchment, storage tanks trestle, installation of a pipe network, standpipes, and installation of photovoltaic system for the 375 villagers. Regional Chairman Gordon Bradford said Channowing is one of the remote communities in the region that is often waterless during hot weather.
Channowing, in terms of its location, it's like an arid desert. It's a savanna, and when you see the sun is out, like in this period, then everything there is dry. And apart from supplying potable water to the residents there, most importantly also it would help them to even do some kitchen gardening.
To show for the community, Roger Roland is grateful for the initiative.
I'm very happy to know that the GWI is providing the water system in my community, because for long years we suffer from the water. Where we're living, it is savanna, open savanna, and we have to go far from the creek for water from the creek, and it's hard for us to go there. So I am proud to know that the GWI providing the water supply in my community.
From Bartica, this is Renetta LaFleur for InfoHub.
First smart traffic light system commissioned at the Mackenzie Bridge in Region 10. Renetta LaFleur joins us again.
Smart traffic lights are a vehicle traffic control system that combines traditional traffic lights with an array of sensors and artificial intelligence to route vehicle and pedestrian traffic. The $3 million light system was welcomed by Regional Chairman Renis Morian.
Now we need to go on the television and speak to our motorists that use the bridge, ask them to cooperate. It's a system being tested, and we hope that we'll come to the point where it's fully operational how we want it. I say thanks to the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. Thanks to everybody that put their hearts and minds, because in the absence of a vision, the people perish.
The initiative falls under the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Traffic and Highway Lights Department. Mayor of Linden, Carwin Holland.
The cry has been for months and months. The management of the traffic here at the bridge, many a times the police had to be called upon, persons waiting for many hours, etc. And I'm happy to see that this small but significant step being taken to have the lights working, and I want to thank the Ministry of Public Infrastructure.
Renetta LaFleur for InfoHub.
We now end InfoHub Recap with Cabinet Roundup from Stacey Carmichael.
President David Granger is attending the International Solar Alliance Founding Conference and Solar Summit in New Delhi, India on March 11. This was disclosed by Minister of State Joseph Harman at today's post-cabinet press brief. The conference and summit are being hosted by the governments of India and France. The ISA is aimed at harnessing solar energy potential, modernizing energy systems, and universalized access to energy to accelerate economic development. Cabinet on Tuesday accepted the proposal by Natural Resources Minister Raphael Trotman to establish a specialized Department of Energy to administer the affairs of Guyana's oil and gas sector. Owing to the complexity of the task of administering the resources of the new industry, Minister Harman said it was felt that the department should be set up under the aegis of the Ministry of the Presidency for its management.
The following areas were to be given attention: organization, structure of the department, legislation to be introduced for the sector, negotiation with potential investors, exploration and production licenses, public communication, responsibilities, the engagement of technical experts, the establishment of a natural resources, or some call it a sovereign wealth fund, capacity building measures, review of fiscal contractual terms, and the transfer of responsibility from the Ministry of Natural Resources to the Department of Energy in the Ministry of the Presidency.
The ministerial quintet will make recommendations regarding the establishment and functioning of the department. Minister Harmon said that a revised order of precedence for official use was presented to Cabinet for consideration.
It was pointed out that there were international conventions which had been developed to which Guyana should conform, but that there had been some slippages in their applications over the years. It was also pointed out that the last order of precedence was published over 33 years ago and was outdated. Cabinet agreed to examine the proposed draft document before granting its approval.
Finally, the government of Guyana is the new institutional host of the Guyana Shield Facility and the Guyana Shield Fund, GSF. The Guyana Shield Facility is a multi-donor facility for the long-term financing of national and regional activities to conserve the ecosystems, protect biodiversity, and sustain livelihood. The GSF supports the global significance of the Guyana ecoregion and will facilitate the financial transfers from international organizations. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.